When my sister walked through the door of my $1.2 million home, her hands were shaking so badly she dropped her car keys twice. The last thing she said before calling our mother was, How is this even possible? But to understand that moment, I need to take you back 15 years, to the day I discovered my mother wasn't just cruel. She was a thief. My name is Natalie Chen. I'm 34 years old, and I grew up believing I was the family disappointment. For over a decade, my mother told everyone, relatives, friends, even strangers, that I couldn't get my life together. That I was barely scraping by. That I'd never amount to anything. She was lying. But before I tell you how I proved her wrong in the most satisfying way possible, I want to ask you something. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever been underestimated, lied about, or had someone steal your opportunities, hit that like button right now. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I read every single one. Now, let me take you back to a winter night in December 2009. The night everything I thought I knew about my family turned out to be a lie. I was 19 years old, sitting in a freezing basement apartment in Chicago, when I got the email that would change my life. The apartment was in Pilsen, a neighborhood where the L train rattled the windows every 7 minutes. My mattress was on the floor. My fridge contained half a jar of peanut butter, some wilted spinach, and a block of cheese I was rationing like it was gold. I was a sophomore at DePaul University, working 2 part-time jobs, one at a campus bookstore, one cleaning offices downtown from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. My student loan debt was already climbing past $48,000. I didn't hate my life. I just thought this was normal. This was what people like me did. People without family money. People without options. My mother, Susan Chen, had explained it to me very clearly when I was 18. We were sitting at the kitchen table in our house in Evanston. It was August, 2 weeks before I was supposed to start college. She poured herself tea, sat across from me, and her voice had that soft, regretful tone she used when delivering bad news. Natalie, sweetheart, your trust fund. The one your grandparents set up. It's gone. I remember my stomach dropping. What do you mean, gone? The 2008 crash, she said, shaking her head slowly. The investments tanked. There's nothing left. I'm so sorry. I cried. She hugged me. She told me it wasn't my fault, that the economy had destroyed a lot of families, that we'd figure it out together. The next morning, she helped me fill out federal loan paperwork. She even made me coffee while I signed my name on the dotted lines. She was so calm, so supportive. I believed her completely. And for the next year and a half, I worked myself to exhaustion, thinking I was just unlucky. Just another casualty of bad timing. Meanwhile, my older sister, Victoria, had bought a 3-bedroom condo in Lincoln Park when she was 26. Granite countertops, floor-to-ceiling windows, a doorman. She worked in finance, and my mother loved to tell everyone how smart with money Victoria was. She saved every penny, my mother would say at family dinners. That's the kind of discipline Natalie just doesn't have. I never questioned it. Why would I? Victoria was older, more successful, more everything. But then came the email. It was from my Uncle Raymond, my mother's younger brother. We weren't close. He lived in Boston and only showed up at major holidays. The subject line read, I can't stay silent anymore. I almost deleted it. I thought it was spam. But something made me open it. Natalie. I need to talk to you about something I should have told you a long time ago. It's about your trust fund. Call me when you can. This is important. Uncle Ray. I stared at the screen. My trust fund? The one that didn't exist anymore? I called him that night. Natalie. Uncle Raymond's voice was tight, like he'd been holding his breath for years. I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to stay calm. Okay. Your trust fund didn't disappear in the crash. Silence. What? Your mother withdrew it. All $67,000. In June of 2008, 3 months before you started college. I couldn't breathe. That's not possible. She told me. She lied, Natalie. I was there. I watched her sign the withdrawal papers at the bank. She told me it was for family expenses, and when I pushed back, she froze me out for 2 years. Wouldn't return my calls. Didn't invite me to Thanksgiving. Nothing. My apartment was silent except for the hum of the radiator. Where did the money go? He paused. 3 weeks after she withdrew it, Victoria closed on her condo. The down payment was $65,000. I slid off my chair onto the floor. The linoleum was cold against my legs. Natalie, are you there? I'm here. I kept copies of the bank statements. Your grandmother set up that trust when you were born. It was supposed to pay for your education. Your mother had no legal right to touch it once you turned 18, but she did it anyway. And she's been lying to you ever since. I hung up. I didn't cry. I just sat there on the floor of my basement apartment, staring at a water stain on the ceiling, while the L train rattled past outside. Pause here for a second. Have you ever had a moment where everything you believed about someone just shattered? Where you realized the person you trusted most had been lying to your face for years? If that's ever happened to you, leave a comment. I want to hear your story. Because what I'm about to tell you next, it only gets worse. I didn't confront my mother right away. I knew better. Susan Chin didn't lose arguments. She redirected them. If I called her screaming, she'd deny everything. She'd say Uncle Raymond was jealous, bitter, trying to destroy the family. She'd call Victoria, and Victoria would back her up. My dad would retreat into his study and turn up the volume on the TV. Within 48 hours, my mother would have told every relative in our extended family that I was going through something and lashing out. I'd become the villain. She'd become the victim. Nothing would change. So instead, I opened my laptop and created a spreadsheet. 3 columns: income, savings, goal. The goal was a number I could barely comprehend at 19 years old. But I wrote it down anyway. $1 million. Not because I needed $1 million. Because I needed my mother to see that she hadn't broken me. That stealing my future hadn't destroyed me. I was going to build something so undeniable, so impossible to ignore, that she'd have no choice but to face what she'd done. I just didn't know it would take 15 years. My mother called the next Sunday. Natalie, sweetheart, I was talking to Aunt Linda. She mentioned a really affordable studio opening up in Rogers Park. Want me to send you the listing? I gripped my phone. I'm not looking to move, Mom. Oh, I just thought, your rent is so high, isn't it? You mentioned that last month. I didn't mention that. Well, someone did. Anyway, it never hurts to have options. After she hung up, I opened Facebook. Aunt Linda had messaged me 3 days earlier. Your mom said you're struggling with rent. I know a landlord who might work with you. My cousin Diane heard you're in a tough spot financially. Let me know if you need help. Uncle Paul, no shame in downsizing, kiddo. We've all been there. 7 messages. 7 different relatives. All repeating the same story. My mother had turned me into a charity case without ever asking me how I was actually doing. Then I saw Victoria's Facebook post. A photo of her newly renovated kitchen. Marble backsplash, custom cabinets, stainless steel appliances. The caption read, "So grateful for this life. Thanks, Mom, for teaching me the value of hard work." The post was dated December 18th. My birthday. I closed my laptop. I opened my spreadsheet. I increased my monthly savings goal by $300. That meant no going out. No new clothes. No coffee that wasn't instant. I was fine with that. My mother measured success in real estate. I was done being measured. The next 5 years were brutal. I graduated from DePaul with a degree in information systems and got a job as a junior analyst at a consulting firm in the Loop. Starting salary, $52,000. Student loan payment, $680 a month. I lived in that same basement apartment until I was 24. I drove a 2006 Honda Accord with a broken passenger window that I duct taped shut every winter. I meal prepped every Sunday: rice, chicken, frozen vegetables. I owned 3 work outfits that I rotated on a schedule. I automated 35% of every paycheck into a high-yield savings account and pretended that money didn't exist. Meanwhile, my family kept talking. At Thanksgiving, my mother would walk around Victoria's condo like a museum tour guide. Victoria picked out these light fixtures herself. Isn't she talented? This kitchen island was entirely her idea. Look at this view. This is what happens when you plan ahead. I'd sit at the table between cousins I saw once a year and smile while my mother performed. One year, Victoria tilted her head at me, the way people tilt their heads at injured animals, and said, "Natalie, are you still renting that place in Pilsen?" "Yeah. You know, I could ask around at my firm. Real estate is way more stable than whatever you're doing." "I'm fine, Victoria. I'm just trying to help." My dad looked at his plate and cut his turkey into very small pieces. He didn't say a word. But here's what they didn't know. While they were hosting dinner parties and remodeling kitchens, I was learning. I taught myself Python. I got certified in cybersecurity. I started freelancing on the side, building databases and security systems for small businesses. At 27, I got promoted to senior analyst. Salary, $78,000. At 29, I was headhunted by a major tech firm. Salary, $115,000. At 31, I was managing a team of 12 people. Salary, $160,000. I didn't post about any of it on social media. I didn't tell my family. Every time I'd mentioned a work win before, my mother had waved it off. "Oh, that computer stuff. Is that even stable?" So I stopped sharing. And nobody noticed. The index funds I'd been feeding since I was 19? They'd tripled. By the time I turned 33, I had $840,000 in liquid assets. I started looking at houses. Let me tell you something about revenge. It's not about making someone suffer. It's about becoming so undeniable that they can't rewrite your story anymore. That's what I was building. Not a house. A reckoning. If you're still with me, drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had someone underestimate you so badly that it became your fuel? I want to hear it. I found the property in March. It was in Gold Coast, one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Chicago. A penthouse condo. 15th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a chef's kitchen with an island that could seat 8 people, a wraparound terrace with views that stretched all the way to Navy Pier. Listing price, $1.2 million. I made an offer the same day. For weeks later, I sat in a title office and signed my name 32 times. The lawyer handed me a key and a folder with the deed inside. I walked to my car, sat in the driver's seat, and held the key in my hand. It was warm from the lawyer's palm. I didn't call my mother. I didn't text Victoria. I just drove to my new home, unlocked the door, and stood in the empty living room as the afternoon light poured through the glass and turned the hardwood floors into liquid gold. I had the key. I had the deed. What I didn't have was a reason to tell them. Not yet. I moved in on a Saturday in late April. No moving truck. Just my Honda packed with everything that mattered: clothes, books, my laptop, a cast iron skillet that had survived 6 apartments. The condo was massive and silent. My footsteps echoed. I bought furniture slowly. A couch. A bed frame. A dining table I found at an estate sale in Wicker Park, solid walnut, slightly scratched. I liked the scratches. They felt earned. The only person I invited over was my mentor from work, Dr. Keisha Matthews. She was the VP of cybersecurity at my company, 58 years old, brilliant, no nonsense. She stood in the entryway and looked out at the lake. "Natalie. This is incredible." "Thanks. Does your family know?" "Not yet." She studied my face. "You're not punishing them by keeping this secret. You're protecting yourself." "Maybe." I poured her a glass of wine. "Or maybe I just don't want to give them another thing to ruin." That night, after Keisha left, I unpacked a box I'd been avoiding. Inside was my deed. And beneath it, in a manila envelope, were the bank statements Uncle Raymond had sent me. I looked at them. Then I put both documents in the top drawer of my desk. I wasn't ready yet. But I would be soon. In June, Victoria's daughter, my niece, Emma, turned 5. Big birthday party at Victoria's condo. The whole family was there. I brought a stuffed giraffe and a card with a $20 bill inside. Emma hugged me and ran off to play. Then my mother found me by the drink table. "Natalie, you look thin. Are you eating?" "Hi, Mom. Doesn't she look thin?" She turned to Aunt Linda, who nodded diplomatically. I sipped my water and said nothing. Later, my mother gave a toast. "I just want to say how proud I am of Victoria. Look at this beautiful home she's built. Look at this life. This is what discipline looks like." Everyone applauded. Then my mother's gaze landed on me. "And Natalie, sweetheart, we're all rooting for you. One day you'll get there too." A few people laughed. Awkward, uncomfortable laughter. Victoria leaned toward me from across the table. "There's no shame in renting, Natalie. We all start somewhere." The pity in her voice was suffocating. I didn't respond. I just smiled, set down my glass, and decided right then and there. It was time. I waited until the end of the party. Everyone was in the living room, coffee cups in hand, kids running around. I stood near the door with my jacket on, keys in hand. "Actually, Victoria," I said casually, "I'd love to have you over for coffee next Saturday. I just moved into a new place." The room shifted. My mother frowned. "A new place? What new place?" "I moved a couple months ago." "Nothing major." "Where?" "Gold Coast." Silence. Victoria blinked. Gold Coast? That's expensive. Are you sharing it with roommates? Nope. Just me. Wait, you're renting in Gold Coast? I smiled. Not renting. I bought it. The room went completely still. You bought a place? My mother's voice was tight. When? How? I've been saving for a long time, Mom. Victoria stared at me. How much did it cost? A little over $1 million. Someone dropped a coffee cup. It didn't break, just clattered on the floor. My mother's face went white. That's not possible. Saturday at 2 p.m., Victoria. I'll text you the address. I walked out the door. Behind me, I heard my mother's voice, shrill and desperate. She's lying. She has to be lying. But Uncle Raymond, sitting in the corner with a quiet smile, said just loud enough for everyone to hear. No, Susan. She's not. Okay, pause. If you've ever had a moment where you got to prove someone wrong without saying a single word, tell me about it in the comments. Because what happened next? It was everything I'd been waiting 15 years for. Saturday came. I spent the morning cleaning a condo that didn't need cleaning. I wiped down the granite counters. I vacuumed the already pristine floors. I arranged 2 coffee mugs on the kitchen island. At 1:50 p.m., my phone buzzed. Victoria, OMW. Is this really your address? This building is insane. I didn't reply. At 1:58, I heard the elevator ding. I opened the door. Victoria stood in the hallway, frozen. She looked past me into the condo, the vaulted ceilings, the windows, the view of the lake stretching out like a sheet of glass. Natalie, this is. Come in. She walked inside like she was stepping onto a stage she didn't understand. She touched the kitchen island. Opened a cabinet. Walked to the window and stared. This is yours? Yes. You bought this? Yes. Her hands were shaking. She pulled out her phone and dialed. Mom. You need to come here. Right now. My mother arrived in 14 minutes. She must have sped the entire way. I heard 2 car doors slam. My mother's heels on the marble lobby floor. My father's slower steps behind her. Victoria opened the door before I could. In here. My mother stepped inside. She stopped. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. She walked through the condo like she was in a museum, touching the walls, staring at the terrace, looking out at the lake. How? Her voice was thin. How could you afford this? I've been a senior director at my company for 2 years, Mom. My salary and investments covered it. Senior director? Since when? Since you stopped asking about my job. She turned to face me. Her face was the color of paper. My father stood in the doorway. His eyes were red. I'm proud of you, Natalie, he said quietly. It was the first time he'd ever said those words to me. My mother spun toward him. Did you know about this? No. Then my father did something I'd never seen before. He crossed the room and hugged me. My mother stood 3 feet away, outside the embrace, hands at her sides, frozen. When my father let go, Victoria was sitting on the edge of my couch, staring at the floor. I don't understand, she said. You had student loans. Massive ones. How did you save this much? I worked. I saved. I invested. But neither of us had a trust fund. Mom said they both got wiped out in the crash. I looked at my mother. Mine didn't get wiped out, Victoria. The air left the room. What? My $67,000 trust fund was withdrawn in June 2008. 3 weeks before your down payment. Victoria's face crumpled. Mom, that's not true. Right? My mother's jaw was locked. She didn't answer. The front door opened. Uncle Raymond stepped inside. He was holding a manila envelope. "Hey, everyone," he said calmly. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic on the Kennedy was brutal." He walked to the kitchen island and set the envelope down between the coffee mugs. Nobody moved. I opened it. Inside, bank statements. Highlighted. Dated. Signed. I read aloud. Trust fund for Natalie May Chen. Custodian, Susan Chen. Balance as of June 2008, $67,420. I slid my finger down the page. Withdrawal, June 14, 2008. Full amount. Authorized by Susan Chen. Transferred to joint checking account ending in 4429. I looked at Victoria. 3 weeks later, you closed on your condo. Down payment, $65,000. Victoria stood up, walked to the counter, and picked up the statement with both hands. Her lips moved as she read. "Mom." Her voice broke. "You told me this was your savings. You told me you and Dad had been setting money aside." My mother's hands were twisting the hem of her jacket. "It was family money. I had the right." "It was in my name, Mom," I said quietly. "A custodial trust for my education. Not Victoria's down payment." My father sat down heavily in a chair. "Susan." His voice was raw. "You told me the fund crashed. You showed me a statement." Uncle Raymond shook his head. "She showed you a fake summary, Richard. The real one is right there." My mother tried one last time. "I did what was best for this family." "No, Mom," I said. "You did what was best for Victoria." Victoria put the bank statement down and pressed her palms flat on the counter. "Mom, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." "You didn't ask," I said. She flinched. Victoria started crying. Quietly. The kind of crying that's been waiting years to come out. Her husband, Marcus, had been standing by the door the whole time. "Vic," he said softly. "We need to talk about this at home." "Marcus?" "Your sister built this by herself," he said, looking around the condo. "While your mom told everyone she was broke. Think about that." My mother stood in the center of my living room, surrounded by the truth she'd buried for 15 years. "After everything I did for you," she said. "I raised you. I kept this family together." "You did," I said. "And I'm grateful for the parts that were real." She started to speak. I held up one hand. "But you also stole from me. And you lied about it for 15 years. Both of those things are true." The silence that followed was deafening. "I'm not asking for the money back," I said. "I don't need it. I built this without it. But I am asking you to stop lying about who I am." Nobody spoke. I walked to the kitchen and poured 2 cups of coffee. "Coffee's getting cold," I said. My mother, for the first time in my entire life, had absolutely nothing to say. The fallout was immediate. By Sunday night, the whole family knew. Marcus told his sister. Victoria, whether intentionally or not, confirmed the details to Aunt Linda. Once Linda knew, it spread like wildfire. My phone started ringing Monday morning. "Aunt Linda, Susan told us you were struggling." We had no idea. "Uncle Paul, why didn't you ever say anything?" I replied to Paul, "Would you have believed me over her?" Silence. Cousin Diane sent a text, "I'm so sorry for every time I offered you help you didn't need." One by one, relatives started calling my mother. Not to comfort her. To ask questions. And my mother did what she always did, she blamed Uncle Raymond. "He's always been jealous. He's trying to destroy this family." But there was a bank statement sitting on a kitchen counter in Gold Coast with her signature at the bottom. You can't talk your way around ink. Within 2 weeks, the invitation stopped. Aunt Linda didn't ask her to book club. Uncle Paul didn't invite her to the 4th of July cookout. My mother lost the one thing she valued more than money, control of the narrative. Victoria called me a week later. "Natalie, I keep thinking about that bank statement." "Okay." I should have asked where the money came from. I was 26 and desperate to buy a place, and Mom said she'd been saving, and I didn't want to look too closely. "I know. I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry." "Thank you. That matters." She paused. I could hear her breathing, uneven, shaky. "Marcus almost left me last year." I didn't know that. Mom was calling every day. Telling me how to raise Emma, how to decorate, what Marcus should be doing with his career. Marcus said if I couldn't see the difference between his advice and hers, he was done. And? I didn't want to see it, she said quietly. Because if I saw it, I'd have to give something back. I let that sit. We didn't talk for a long time after that. Just breathed on opposite ends of the line. 2 weeks later, my mother called. "Nobody talks to me anymore, Natalie." "That's not my doing, Mom. I just wanted Victoria to have a good start. At my expense. Without asking. Without telling me." Silence. Then she said something I didn't expect. "I thought you'd never find out." "I know, Mom. That's the part that hurts the most." She hung up. My father started coming over on Saturdays. Just him. No Susan. He'd bring his toolbox and fix little things that didn't need fixing. We'd sit on the terrace and drink coffee and watch the boats on the lake. He didn't apologize. Not with words. But he showed up. And sometimes that's enough. In August, I got promoted again. Vice President of Cybersecurity Operations. I didn't post about it. I didn't call anyone. Some things you hold for yourself first. Victoria and I started meeting once a month at a coffee shop in Wicker Park. Neutral ground. It was awkward at first. Lots of stirring coffee that didn't need stirring. But we kept showing up. She told me about therapy with Marcus. About learning to hear her own voice instead of Susan's. I was so busy proving I was successful, she said, that I never asked if I was happy. I didn't have an answer. But I listened. And that was enough. In September, a letter arrived at my condo. No return address. Inside, 1 page. Handwritten. My mother's handwriting. Natalie. I made choices that weren't mine to make. I don't know if I can explain why, but I'm trying to understand it myself. I'm sorry. Mom. I read it twice. Then I folded it and put it in the top drawer of my desk, next to the deed and the bank statement. 3 documents. 1 story. I'm sitting in my living room right now, looking out at the lake. The sun's going down, turning the water pink and gold. There's a cup of tea on the table next to me that's gone cold because I've been talking to you for a while. My mother measured success in square footage. My sister measured it in comparison. My father measured it by keeping the peace, which, it turns out, isn't the same as keeping anyone safe. And me? For a long time, I measured it in silence. The kind of silence that builds things nobody sees coming. I don't hate my mother. Hate is heavy, and I've been carrying enough. I don't hate Victoria either. She's trying. Clumsily. Imperfectly. And that counts. What I stopped doing was waiting. Waiting for them to see me. Waiting for permission to be proud of what I'd built. Waiting for the version of my mother who would look at my life and say, I was wrong. I built something they couldn't ignore. Not to punish them. Not to prove them wrong. But because I deserved a life that wasn't written by someone else. 3 things I learned the hard way. 1. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's strategy. The loudest response I ever gave my family was a penthouse on Lake Michigan and a cup of coffee on the counter. 2. You don't owe anyone a confrontation. But you owe yourself the truth. The bank statement didn't fix everything, but it meant nobody could rewrite my story again. 3. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with better locks. My mother can knock. She just can't walk in and rearrange the furniture anymore. If any of this hit home for you, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment and tell me, which of those 3 lessons landed the hardest? And if you know someone who's been underestimated, lied about, or had their opportunities stolen, send them this video. Sometimes knowing you're not alone makes all the difference. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. I've got more stories like this coming, and you don't want to miss them. Thank you for staying until the end. I mean that. I'll see you in the next one.